Life never sends a warning before it crashes into you with its fiercest storms. One moment you're standing steady, the next, everything around you shatters. Your plans, your peace, your very sense of safety. These moments arrive uninvited and without mercy, striking with sudden upheaval, loss, or pain that takes your breath away. It feels like being thrust onto a battlefield, blindsided by chaos that refuses to wait for your consent. But it is exactly in these shattering moments, when the world seems ready to collapse, that the strength inside you reveals itself. The way you stand up, face the storm, and push forward will shape not only your identity, but the entire course of your life from that moment on. Suffering is an inseparable thread woven into the fabric of the human experience. We live in an imperfect world where the things we cherish most can be broken in an instant. Sometimes pain is a fleeting scratch. Other times it cuts so deeply into our souls that healing feels impossible. Our reactions to pain are as varied as the wounds themselves. Some retreat into silence, others lash out in anger. Many sink into despair. But a different path exists, a path of acceptance, understanding, and growth. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor and philosopher, reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Today, you will discover 11 powerful Stoic principles to help you master your emotions, cultivate self-awareness, and navigate life's toughest trials with unshakable calm and resilience. Before we dive in, take a moment and type in the comments, "I grow stronger." Declare it to yourself, because every journey to strength begins with that first firm step. Let's start with principle number 1. Accept the battle that has come. When life lands its unexpected blow, your first move matters more than anything. This is not surrender or weakness. It's the crucial first step toward taking back control of your inner world, even when everything outside feels out of control. Denial wastes your energy on futile resistance and robs you of the chance to act wisely. Acceptance, on the other hand, means seeing reality clearly, not because it's pleasant, but because it is true. It is saying to yourself, "I didn't choose this fight, but now that it's here, I will meet it head on." This mindset brings clarity and focus instead of struggle and confusion. You begin to observe the facts, analyze them, and respond with intention and strength. Look at Helen Keller's extraordinary life, a beacon of resilience. At just 2 years old, she lost both her sight and hearing. Instead of surrendering, Helen accepted her reality and fought through it, becoming one of the most inspiring figures of human determination and strength. This is the power of acceptance. When life hits you hardest, accepting the battle is the first step toward rising stronger. Building on the power of acceptance, we find that true transformation begins not by denying hardship, but by embracing it fully, and from there, discovering a wellspring of inner strength. Helen Keller's story doesn't end with her acceptance of loss. Rather, it is where her remarkable journey truly begins. Despite losing both her sight and hearing at such a young age, she refused to let that loss define her entire existence. Guided patiently by her devoted teacher, Anne Sullivan, and fueled by an indomitable spirit that refused to break, Keller learned to communicate through sign language, mastered Braille, and went on to graduate from college, a groundbreaking achievement for someone facing such profound disabilities in her time. She didn't hide from her challenges or pretend they didn't exist. Instead, she embraced her hardship as an essential part of her path. And it was this very embrace, the conscious acceptance of reality combined with relentless effort, that transformed her into a beacon of hope and resilience for millions who came after her. Acceptance alone doesn't erase the pain or magically remove the difficulties, but it does something even more powerful. It changes you. It lifts you out of the helpless role of a victim and places you firmly in the position of an actor, a person who takes responsibility, who chooses how to respond. From that pivotal moment on, every step you take, even the smallest, becomes a deliberate act of strength. So when life inflicts pain, instead of collapsing under the weight of, why me? Shift your focus to, what can I do right now? That question is the seed of your inner power. Which brings us to the principle number 2, tap into your inner strength. When life knocks you down, the natural impulse might be to lash out, blaming circumstances, other people, or fate itself. But Stoicism points us in the opposite direction. Rather than looking outward for answers, it invites us to turn inward, deep into the heart of our suffering. The truth is, it is not external conditions that build resilience, but the inner fortress of strength we construct within ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor who faced relentless war, devastating plagues, and widespread rebellion, never ran from pain or chaos. Instead, he retreated inward, using his pen to write meditations in cold military camps during harsh winter nights. Through these writings, he reminded himself to keep his mind clear and unmoved by the turmoil swirling around him. This realization that our greatest power lies in how we respond rather than what happens to us shifts us from passivity to active agency. In that moment of conscious choice, inner strength begins to awaken. But here's what's crucial. Accessing this power is not about rare bursts of motivation or heroic feats. It comes through steady, consistent practice. A true Stoic continuously asks themselves, what is within my control? This simple question unlocks an extraordinary kind of freedom. Instead of collapsing under pressure, they cultivate a space between their emotions and their reactions, often through meditation or reflection. Like Marcus Aurelius, they keep journals to unravel false beliefs and mental traps. They question their own thoughts with the rigor of Socrates. Am I certain this belief is true? And by doing so, they reclaim mastery over their mind. When you learn to flip the lens of life, from looking outward to turning inward, you don't just survive the storm. You build a lighthouse within yourself, a steady beacon of calm and clarity. Every mindful moment, every instance you hold your temper in check, every courageous step forward, even when your heart shakes, is proof that your strength is growing from the inside out. Because when life wounds you, what you truly need isn't escape or avoidance. What you need is an anchor, and that anchor lies nowhere else but within you. Stoicism doesn't teach you to feel numb or shut down your emotions. On the contrary, it teaches you to feel everything deeply without letting any feeling dictate your actions or overwhelm your reason. And if you thought this principle was challenging, brace yourself, because the next one goes even further. Building on the power of inner strength, we arrive at a truth that sounds almost paradoxical, yet it holds immense power. This is principle number 3. Turn a death sentence into a life sentence. At first glance, this phrase might seem confusing. How can something that feels like the end, the final crushing blow, be the start of something new? But that's exactly the point. What feels like a dead end often hides the doorway to a new beginning. Life, in all its unpredictable cruelty, will sometimes place you before what feels like a harsh verdict. Losing a job, a painful breakup, failure, or an unexpected illness can feel like standing on the edge of a precipice. In those moments, it's all too easy to fall into despair, muttering things like, I'm done for, or there's no way out, or I've lost. But here's the hidden truth. The way you name your pain shapes your entire experience of it. The words you choose don't just mirror your mindset, they create and reinforce your beliefs. And those beliefs, in turn, become the invisible scripts that guide your actions. When you repeatedly tell yourself, I can't do this, or I always fail, you're not merely narrating your story. You are programming your mind to believe in helplessness and defeat. But if you consciously change your language to something like, "I'm learning to do better," or "I haven't succeeded yet, but I'm making progress," you send a powerful new message to your brain. I still have a choice. Consider the story of Tara, a freelance graphic designer who faced what felt like a catastrophic failure when she lost her very first contract. At first, Tara told herself, "I wasn't good enough." That sentence could have shattered her confidence and ended her dreams. But instead of allowing those words to consume her, she paused and rewrote the narrative. She changed it to, "Now I know exactly where I need to improve." That small shift in language pulled her mind out of a downward spiral and into a proactive mindset. She upgraded her portfolio, learned new skills, and just 3 weeks later, she landed a bigger, better contract. Not because the pain disappeared, but because she renamed it. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus captured this wisdom perfectly when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This isn't just a comforting platitude. It's a profound reminder that no matter how much the outside world crumbles, one thing remains entirely within your control: how you respond, how you label your experiences, and how you tell the story of your life. Failure doesn't have to be a death sentence unless you treat it as such. It can be transformed into a life sentence, a call to live with greater clarity, resilience, and purpose. So when life hurts, ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? And if that story makes you feel smaller, weaker, or trapped, rewrite it, because you have the power to do just that. Have you ever changed the way you named a painful experience in your life? Share your story in the comments below. Your courage might just inspire someone else to see their own struggles in a new light. From here, we move into principle number 4, persistently show up every day. Think of Stephen King, one of the most successful novelists in the world. Most people assume his masterpieces, like The Shining or Misery, were born in bursts of inspiration. But no, those stories emerged on ordinary, even dull mornings when he simply sat down and wrote. King once shared that he writes 2,000 words every single day. No holidays, no exceptions. Whether he was raising young kids under financial pressure or stuck in a creative rut, he still wrote, daily, without excuses. That's the core of Stoic discipline. A Stoic doesn't wait for miracles, they don't wait for inspiration. They choose deliberate action every day, regardless of how they feel. Hustle, through the lens of Stoicism, isn't about going all out for a few intense days and then burning out. It's about the discipline of showing up consistently, even if only to take one small step, done with intention and calm. No need for grandeur, just be present. And it's precisely when life gets messy, when you lose direction, drive, or the things you once thought were essential, that showing up matters the most. Stoic wisdom reminds us to return to the smallest action we still control. Just write 300 words. Just stretch for 10 minutes. Just clean your desk. Because those small actions are how we push back against helplessness. They remind us we haven't given up, that we're still in the fight, even if we're moving just a few inches a day. Stoicism doesn't demand that you always be strong. It simply asks, don't disappear. Don't let pain paralyze your will. Set small goals and keep your promise to follow through. From that consistency, you build momentum, and from momentum, you build belief. The belief that you can carry on, even on the worst days. This isn't a theory. This is how extraordinary people move through suffering, not in dramatic leaps, but in quiet, steady steps. You remember, big results don't come from the days you do a lot. They come from the days you don't want to do anything, but you still do something. The Stoic lives in that moment, not to prove anything to anyone else, but to stay true to themselves. And when life hurts, your daily decision to show up, even with one small act, becomes the most beautiful form of resistance. Principle number 5, don't let fear control you. When pain arrives, fear is often the first thing to follow. But here's the twist. Most fear doesn't come from your current reality. It comes from stories your mind creates. Worst-case scenarios, imagined disasters, things that haven't even happened yet. Stoic philosophy sees this with clarity. Fear is a product of imagination, not of reality. That's why the first step isn't to simply worry less. The first step is to identify exactly what you're afraid of and ask whether it's within your control. Principle number 5 doesn't ask you to suppress fear. On the contrary, it asks you to face it fully and honestly. Stoicism teaches that fear only holds power when we let it take over our thoughts and choices. Because when you freeze over something that hasn't even happened, you're surrendering the present moment, the only thing you truly own. Take the story of Kevin, a young startup founder, standing backstage before his very first pitch presentation. His palms are sweaty, his heart pounds, his mind floods with thoughts. What if they laugh at me? What if I forget everything? What if no one invests? All of these fears are built on imagined futures, scenarios that don't exist and are completely outside his control. But Kevin doesn't spiral. He takes a deep breath and asks the only question that matters. What can I do right now? He remembers a simple technique to center his mind. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method. Name 5 things you can see, 4 sounds you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 you can smell, and 1 taste you can identify. In just 60 seconds, Kevin shifts his focus from the chaos in his head to the clarity of the present moment. He walks onto the stage. He speaks clearly. He connects. He closes the deal. It's not that the fear disappeared, but fear no longer controlled him. And that's the gift of Stoicism. It doesn't promise you'll always feel brave. It gives you something more powerful, the ability to act even when fear is loud, as long as that action is within your control, because somewhere between vague anxiety and focused action, you reclaim your power. So the next time life overwhelms you, don't run from fear. Face it, break it down, separate what's real from what's imagined, and ask yourself, what can I do right now? Maybe it's small, a breath, a word, a single step. But in that step, fear stops being the one in charge. You are. Principle number 6, turn pressure into motivation. Pressure isn't the enemy, it's energy, and energy can be directed. When life tightens around you, a deadline, a challenge, a critical decision, your body reacts. Cortisol, the stress hormone, makes your chest feel tight. But adrenaline also shows up, sharpening your focus, preparing you for action. Stoicism doesn't ask you to eliminate pressure. It teaches you how to cooperate with it. Because pressure is not a punishment, it's a signal. It means this moment matters. You can collapse under it, or use it to become sharper, stronger, and more deliberate. The Stoic approach is simple. When you feel the weight of pressure, don't run. Build a system. Try the Pomodoro method. Work 25 minutes, rest for 5. Break your mountain into steps. Reward small wins. And above all, whisper to yourself, every second I endure, I become stronger. Think of Serena Williams, one of the greatest athletes in history. She didn't just compete under pressure, she thrived in it. Grand Slam finals, millions watching, expectations sky high, but instead of shrinking, she leaned in. Because Serena didn't see pressure as a threat, she saw it as fuel, energy to awaken her highest self. Those 23 Grand Slam titles, they aren't just proof of her talent, they are proof of this truth. When you master your mind, pressure doesn't crush you, it launches you. And that's exactly what a Stoic does. They don't run from adversity, they rise with it, they step into it, they face it, and they use pressure like a mental gym. Because just like a sword is sharpened in fire, your character is forged in turbulence, not when everything is calm, but when the world shakes and you refuse to crumble. That strength, it doesn't come from avoiding difficulty. It comes from transforming through it. Before we move on, can I ask you a small favor? If this video has sparked something in you, if you're learning, feeling seen, or even just smiling a little, hit that like button. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Why? Because every like, every subscribe tells YouTube, hey, this message matters. And that helps us reach more people, more souls who might need this very message right now. So if this helped you, let's pass it on. Now, let's step into principle number 7. Learn from your falls. Life doesn't promise a straight path. Sometimes you'll stumble, you'll fall hard. So hard, it might feel like the ground was never yours to stand on in the first place. But through the eyes of Stoicism, every fall isn't a failure. It's a turning point, a teacher, a new page in the book of your becoming. See, failure isn't just misfortune, it's data. If you're calm enough to observe and honest enough to confront, you'll start to see the hidden clues. What skill was missing? Was the timing right? Were you prepared emotionally, mentally, strategically? No fall happens at random. There's a pattern, a reason. And when you study your falls like an analyst, not a victim, something powerful happens. You shift from shame to growth, from self-pity to insight. Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That isn't just willpower. That's Stoicism in action. He didn't collapse under disappointment. He studied it, learned from it, and kept experimenting until the light bulb was born. But behind Edison's grit was something deeper, faith. Faith in something higher, not just in himself, but in a deeper order, a divine providence guiding even the darkest paths. Because sometimes when reason falters and logic doesn't add up, it's faith that keeps you steady. Not because it guarantees success, but because it whispers, this challenge has meaning. In Stoic philosophy, this mirrors the concept of logos, the rational force that governs the universe, the divine blueprint, the belief that even pain has a purpose. Learning from failure takes courage. It takes brutal honesty. It takes the discipline to ask, what is this teaching me? And that's exactly what Stoicism trains you to do. To fall and rise better, not bitter. So the next time life knocks you down, don't just try to get back up. Get up wiser. But every time you manage it, every time you stand back up with new insight instead of old anger, you move closer to something rare, self-mastery. And that is the most meaningful victory of all. Not conquering the world, but conquering yourself in the middle of the wreckage life leaves behind. So when life hurts you, pause, observe, analyze, learn. Don't just get back up wiser, because in the fall you're being forged into a strength no success could ever teach. Principle number 8. Look back on your journey. When life wears you down, when your vision starts to blur, when your motivation fades into silence, take a moment to look back at the road you've already walked. There are days we all wake up heavy-hearted, unsure if we're still on the right path. Dreams that once lit our soul on fire suddenly feel like fading embers. Goals that used to keep us up at night now sit forgotten on some crumpled notepad. But this isn't the end. It's just a reminder to remember. Stoicism doesn't ask you to live in the past. It invites you to learn from it, like a warrior tracing the scars on their skin, to remember just how many battles they've survived. When the present feels chaotic, your resilient past becomes a compass, Every hardship you overcame wasn't a fluke, it was proof. And proof carries power. Start a simple practice. Create a victory journal. Write down the moments you didn't give up, the days you pushed through, the compliments you didn't believe at the time but needed, the goals you once thought were unreachable, but somehow you reached. These aren't just memories, they're weapons against doubt. Take this simple story. A small company once struggled to survive its first quarter, then almost unexpectedly, they hit their revenue goal. Then they surpassed it. The leadership printed those numbers and hung them on the wall, not to brag, but to remind the team, we've done it before, we'll do it again. Every time things got rough, they looked at that wall, not for comfort, but for fuel. That memory reignited their fire. Stoicism doesn't teach us to ignore emotion. It teaches us to master it through reason. And sometimes reason needs to be reminded of who you've been, of what you've already endured, of the strength you already carry. You're not starting from zero. Sometimes you've just forgotten how far you've already come. So look back, not to dwell, but to remember. You've fought, you've survived, you're still moving forward. Every scar is a certificate. It says, you're strong enough for what comes next. And if looking back gives you strength, imagine what could happen if you also looked forward and made a promise to yourself about the kind of person you're becoming. That leads us to principle number 9, the compass you can cling to when everything else falls apart. Are you ready to write it? Principle number 9, make a manifesto for life. Each morning, Hannah, a freelance designer navigating the chaos of deadlines and unpredictability, stands in front of her mirror and says out loud, "Today, I will finish 2 presentations and reach out to 1 new client." She's not just cheering herself on, she's declaring her intention, aligning her mind, setting the tone for the day. This is her personal manifesto, not just a to-do list, but a statement of identity. A Stoic doesn't drift through life hoping things go well. They live on purpose, by principle, by design. A manifesto isn't about being rigid, it's about being rooted in who you want to be when the world is loud, chaotic, or unclear. And we'll explore how to create your own Stoic manifesto in the next chapter. This is a commitment, clear, specific, and positive, that she repeats like a ritual to start her day. She doesn't say, "I'll try." She doesn't say, "I hope today is better than yesterday." She says, "I will." And because of that, she acts with direction, with boundaries, with strength. She's no longer drifting, she's steering. That's the power of a manifesto. A personal declaration for how you choose to live, even when the world around you is loud, chaotic, and uncertain. When life gets exhausting, when sadness and pressure scatter your mind, when your sense of stability starts to shake, that's when Stoicism steps in and says, you can't control the wind, but you can always adjust your sails. And a Stoic manifesto, written in the quiet clarity of your own voice, is how you take hold of the wheel. It's a daily reminder that you are not powerless. You choose how you live, how you respond, where you go. A true Stoic manifesto isn't flowery or vague. It's not a speech, it's not a slogan, it's a compass. It sounds like this: I will complete my most important task before 11 a.m. I will stay calm in every conflict. I will choose progress over perfection. I will not waste energy on what I can't control. Every I will is a promise, not to the world, to yourself. You don't wait for motivation, you create direction. And when you speak it out loud, you're not just saying words, you're setting your course. Writing a manifesto is one thing, but the real power comes when you return to it day after day. Stand in front of the mirror, look yourself in the eye, and repeat it like a warrior checking their armor before battle. At first, it may feel strange, but soon it becomes your mental anchor. Each sentence is a grounding step, pulling you out of chaos and back into your center. So when life hurts you, don't just survive it. Stand up and write your manifesto, because it's more than just words. It's your inner compass. And if everyone did that, maybe the world wouldn't have less pain, but it would have more people who know how to face pain with dignity. Have you ever written a manifesto for yourself? If you have, share your I will statement in the comments. You never know. Your words might be the spark someone else needs. Now we arrive at the principle number 10. Look for opportunities and challenges. When everything seems to fall apart, when life blindsides you with chaos, it's easy to believe that all is lost. But that's not always true. Sometimes if you look closely, what feels like an ending is actually a beginning. Opportunities don't always knock. Sometimes they crash through the ceiling wearing the clothes of adversity. Principle number 10 isn't just advice, it's a mindset. A Stoic mindset of strength, clarity, and wisdom. It's the ability to stay composed in the storm, to breathe when others panic, to look through the wreckage and notice there's still something here, something I can build from. Because while most people retreat or freeze in fear, the Stoic sees with different eyes. They don't lose their head over what they can't control. Instead, they control what they can, their focus, their mindset, their response. We accept reality rationally, without complaint, and then we focus on what we can change, our response, our mindset, our adaptability. That simple shift in perspective, it's everything. Because once you stop wishing things were different, you start seeing what's really there. The gaps, the unmet needs, the broken systems, the outdated assumptions. And for those paying attention, that's the moment to step up, to pivot, to begin something new. Take the 2008 global financial crisis. The world was in freefall. Markets collapsed, travel stalled. The hospitality industry bled. In the middle of that chaos, two young guys in San Francisco, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, were struggling to pay rent. So they did something strange. They rented out space in their apartment to travelers. No one thought it would work, but they weren't just offering beds. They were noticing something deeper. People wanted flexibility, affordability, connection. Out of crisis, Airbnb was born, not from luck, but from sharp observation, courage to act, and the ability to stay calm while others panicked. That's Stoic philosophy in motion, not blind optimism, not toxic positivity, but radical acceptance of reality, paired with the will to respond wisely. When you treat adversity as raw material, not something to complain about, but something to rebuild with, you become unshakable. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And instead, you start asking, what can I build from this? That mindset doesn't just help us survive, it helps us thrive in the very places where others back away. Because in those moments when life hurts most, the human spirit has its clearest chance to show its strength. Stay calm, stay curious, stay brave enough to pivot, and you won't just survive, you'll change the game. Principle number 11, believe in the reward on the other side. Searching for opportunity in hardship is not just a mental trick. It's survival, it's strategy. It's how you get through the darkest hours of your life. When you're backed into a corner, when it feels like everything is collapsing, there's only one choice. You find a reason to keep going. That's where Stoic philosophy reminds us. Nothing worthwhile comes easy, and today's pain may be the necessary condition for tomorrow's reward. This is the core of Principle 11. Believe in the reward beyond the pain. Belief isn't fantasy, it's fuel. It's what gets you out of bed when your body aches and your heart's exhausted. When life knocks you flat, you need a vision, a reward worth getting back up for. That vision is your compass in the storm. Pin it to your wall, sketch it on paper, whisper it to yourself in the mirror. Whatever it takes, never lose sight of where you're going. because that clarity is what keeps you from being swept away by fear, frustration, or fatigue. Stoicism doesn't teach us to chase outcomes. It teaches us to master the process, because it's the process, the small, disciplined steps that shape us. And over time, those steps lead to something greater than just achievement. They lead to meaning. Still, if all you do is stare at the end goal while ignoring the steps it takes to get there, you'll burn out fast. That's why the reward must be broken down into smaller milestones, like water stations on a long mountain climb. Every time you reach a part of your goal, pause, celebrate, reflect. It doesn't have to be grand. Maybe it's a shared meal, a word of recognition, or a few proud minutes to yourself. That's enough to remind you you're on the right track. Take the BVM project team, working on a construction job that stretched longer than expected. They didn't just grit their teeth and grind through. They broke the schedule into tangible checkpoints. When the foundation was done, they shared a simple meal. When the glass system was installed, they took a team-building day to breathe, to laugh, to feel human again. Those small rewards lifted their spirits. They reignited the sense of meaning behind each task. And the project? It finished on time, not because it was easy, but because they fed their hope with something they could hold on to. That is a true form of mental resilience. Stoicism doesn't promise that every effort will pay off the way you hope, but it teaches you this: to believe, not blindly, but with reason. To believe that perseverance matters, that each step, each scar, each quiet act of showing up might bring you closer to something deeply worthwhile. The reward isn't always money or praise or achievement. Sometimes, the reward is simply that you've grown stronger, wiser, calmer. When life hurts, keep your vision clear. Celebrate the small wins. And above all, remember, getting through pain isn't just endurance. It's a choice, a decision to believe there's light on the other side. Stoicism won't erase your pain, but it will offer you something far greater, a way to face it with reason, with calm, with courage. Through real-life examples, one thing becomes clear: adversity doesn't discriminate, but your response defines you. Whether it's war, illness, financial loss, or heartbreak, the Stoic mindset remains a guiding compass, helping people rise above, inspiring the world along the way. Now it's your turn to reflect. Do you believe the Stoic mindset can help people stay grounded in the face of pain? 1. Strongly disagree. 2. Disagree 3. Neutral 4. Agree 5. Strongly agree. Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this video moved you, if it gave you even one insight to hold on to, like it, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe for Stoic Fantastic so you don't miss more powerful content ahead. Remember this: every challenge is a chance to prove your strength and grow even stronger. The journey is long, but the reward? It's waiting for you on the other side of your toughest moments.